Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. A combination of all of them, I suppose. What's going on out there on this wonderful Wednesday night? My time, anyway. It is about 11:20 p.m. here, California time. Wednesday, December 27th, 2023. Latest activity on the globe shows, looks like a 4.0 over here around the Indonesia Islands area, where we're still looking at a pretty good cluster of earthquake activity in the last 24 hours. Also some deeper movement going on there. Notice that, well, actually that four-pointer is the deep movement. Look at that. Almost 500 kilometers deep there in that region. Goodness. That is some deep activity in that region. So, we do have some movement, though, off the coast of Northern California kicking up here in the last 20 minutes or so. 3.8 earthquake being reported here just off the coast of the Eureka area. Of course, the Cascadia subduction zone, the mega quake or mega thrust area, sits just here to the east of this earthquake. This is kind of along the southern edge of the Gorda Plate, which is up here to the north, and the Pacific Plate to the south. That's going to be along the plate boundary. Very shallow earthquake at about 2.2 kilometers deep. Of course, not a big shaker, but that obviously is a good indicator. Some pressure building up out here across the Northern California area. Continue to watch that. Also, one earthquake here just off the Pacifica area. Once again, a 4.0 or a 1.0, excuse me, coming in at about 3 kilometers deep or so, just off the San Andreas Fault there, around the San Francisco area. Still seeing some further movement here in the Coso volcanic range north of Ridgecrest. This area has seen a little bit of deep, or not deeper activity, but consistent earthquake activity here over the last 24 hours. And in fact, if you were to go back last 48 hours, you would see a little bit more numerous earthquakes out here. But kind of watching it, it's in a little centered location out here, about 2 kilometers deep or so. And there is definitely some, obviously, some older volcanic features out here in the land. The Coso volcanic field has a lot of volcanic domes and whatnot. But this activity, hard to say if it's related to the, maybe some old lava tubes out there, or magma tubes, or maybe some fault systems out here. But either way, getting a little bit of activity stirring up out there. Let's see what else we got. Looking at the big model here on the globe. Not a whole lot else to report up there across the Pacific Northwest. Now, the Yellowstone area has been showing a little bit of seismic activity here around the Grant Village area. That was last night, a little bit throughout the day today as well. But we're seeing, some of these little spikes here on the seismograph. Let's see if you can see that right there on this Yellowstone station. That, I believe, is some type of interference or maybe ice buildup. The weather conditions are quite brutal up there right now. Pretty cold. So ice does build up on the seismograph stations out there. And we get these ice quakes on occasion. So sometimes we'll see those popping up there. But as far as earthquake activity, looks very minimal up there for now. The rest of the states looks pretty quiet. We did have one earthquake here in the New Madrid seismic zone, a 3.8, somewhat of a large earthquake here, but not the largest that this area can see. They're very capable of producing some mid-upper 7s up here across the area. One earthquake, kind of an odd one here, 2.4 near Corunna, Canada, but yeah, I guess it is on the side of the border here, or at least very close, if not on the border. 7.3 kilometers deep there in that region. Don't recall the last time I seen any activity out there. In fact, historical data shows, not a whole lot of earthquake activity out there. Of course, this map only goes back to about 1900 or so. So obviously, we could be missing some activity. But a little bit of shaking going on up there outside of Detroit, Michigan region. Still seeing some activity over here across the Reykjanes Ridge. some divergent boundary activity out here in this little fracture zone. 5.2, the latest earthquake here in this area. Of course, obviously what goes on out here across the northern Atlantic up into the Greenland Sea, this whole plate boundary affects what goes on across the Iceland area. So let's go ahead and check out the latest activity there from the Iceland region, see if we got anything major to chat about. Over the last 12 hours, only shows about 20 earthquakes or so here in this area. Getting a little bit of movement here south. Now, if you remember, prior to the eruption there in the northeast of, or north of Hagafell, this most recent fissure activity up here in the Iceland activity, we've seen something similar to this here going on a couple days prior to the eruption. Prior to the fissure activity opening up there northeast of Grindavik. Seen a couple 2s and 3s out here. Now we're getting the same thing going on here in the last 12 hours. So I would pay attention to what's going on out here. Obviously, divergent boundary activity is picking up here and also further south. That could play a part on what goes on up here across the Grindavik area. Right now, not seeing too much earthquake activity there across the region, but be on guard. We've definitely seen some elevated activity down the line, so to speak, there across the region of the divergent boundaries. The latest update there from the Icelandic Met Office, Meteorological Office, was put out earlier this morning, and they just kind of chatted a little bit about the earthquake activity and the potential increasing likelihood of another magma intrusion occurring, leading to a second volcanic eruption. So divergent boundary activity taking place here south of Iceland. Got some further activity just along this plate boundary. Yeah, I could see that really kicking up here across the region. So continue to watch that. The most recent GPS data here across the area of the Svartsengi area shows, obviously, here's the vertical displacement up. Vertical displacement. There's the eruption back in December 18th time period or so, somewhere around there. Only lasted for a short time, but we're obviously seeing some increasing GPS displacement here with that vertical uplift popping back up here. So that means that things are continuing to stay active out there across the Iceland region. We will continue to watch that. That is for sure. Trimmer out here, Cascadia Trimmer. Let's go ahead and check this out here real quick. Trimmer, hello. There we go. About 84 epicenters of tremor, not volcanic tremor. This is tremor that takes place into the deeper region of the Cascadia subduction zone underneath the North American plate here, where the Pacific plate subducts. Underneath this area, about 45 kilometers or so, seen a pretty good swarm of tremors down underneath the area of Oregon. Also a little bit taking place up here in the Vancouver Island range, but this is really not a lot of activity compared to what we had previously seen here over the years past with these regular intervals of elevated tremor. It's only up until roughly about the end of 2022 in October is when we've seen our last decent tremor count. Since then, well, it's been going down. We haven't really seen a whole lot of elevated tremor activity out here. So that regular interval of those occurrences of large tremor uptick has halted, and I'm not 100% certain if that's good news or not. So we got to pay attention to what's going on out here with the tremor activity. Take a look at earthquake activity in relation to the tremor activity or lack thereof of tremor, and kind of base our observations and potential earthquake activity following these events. Now we do have that 3-pointer out here away from the tremor. Most of the tremor is up here in Oregon. But that doesn't mean that it's not trying to put pressure out here as far as pressure along the plates down in Northern California. There might just be, enough slippage going on down here to create that tremor, but not so much down here. That would tell me that this area is completely locked down here across the Northern California area. So that's a little concerning, but it's no guarantee that means that there's going to be a big one down here. But we'll continue to watch this area of Northern California with this type of movement that's going on there. All right, rest of the map here, going to do a little zigzag of a pattern out here. 5.7 out in the southern East Pacific rise. 1333. There's 333, and if you know me, those are important numbers here in my my environment, my world. 333 always seems to come up here. Divergent boundary activity out there in the southern Pacific Ocean, and that's been a couple earthquakes out there. That activity should could amplify conditions out here across the South America region. It looks like it may have a slightly, roughly at the northern edge here, the Peru-Chile Trench, and the southern edge as well. Latest earthquake throws out at 3.7 here. Just looks like in the Peru area. So keep an eye on this region here. Definitely showing some broader movement here across the South America area. The Hawaii area still showing some activity, 2s and 3s out there. By the way, who do we got out there? Not a whole lot there on the chat right now. I was just looking to see who's out there. I can't be correct. 11:46 a.m. So nobody's chatted on chat since 11 in the morning. I doubt that. So YouTube looks like they're a little behind on that. Where was I? Hold on a second here. Getting all over the place. Hawaii. Got to go back out here, right? Get a little bit of activity stirring up here across the Kilauea volcano. Although nothing large scale taking place here. Just still seeing a little bit of a, inflation activity on the uptick out there. Let's go check it out. The Kilauea volcano still sitting at a yellow stage. Let's see what we got for the UW. Ooh, man, we took a nosedive. Look at that. Chew, kind of like the, like a stock market or cryptocurrency. One of the two. Way down there. So that's over the last few hours or so. Took a nosedive here in terms of inflation. So that's rapid deflation activity occurring up here. This is the last 30 days or so of activity. Last time we've seen something like that, looks like it, we get these little periods of sharp uptick and then downwards trend. But the last time we've seen something similar after an inflation event was our last inflation event here, where we entered into a couple days of deflation. So it's possible we may be entering into that tonight. And that should last here over the next couple days or so before another inflation event. But it's been an odd one. Definitely been an odd one. Earlier this morning we did see some fluid movement. This is magma movement there occurring during our inflation event. Since then, things have kind of died out. We're seeing a little bit of earthquake activity, but looks like that fluid movement activity there on the graph has kind of mellowed out. So just been an interesting scenario, interesting past couple months here at the Kilauea volcano. Obviously, as things continue to build and build and build, the potential for the eruption continues to increase day by day out here. The question is, how much longer? How much longer is it going to take before we see some activity? This inflation event is at its highest level since 2018. That 2018 eruption there that kicked off in the Lanali Estates area. Remember that? That's pretty interesting activity. I wish I could have got out there for it, but goodness. So, it's possible we could see something very similar to that take place here, or maybe larger, with the continued activity kicking up there in the inflation category. Definitely building. Let's see what else we got. New Zealand area scene looks like a 3.9 down here. North Island. Let's go take a look. See what's stirring up down there. Across a beautiful New Zealand area. I would love to visit down there. There's so much areas I want to visit, but it takes a lot of money to travel around. That is for sure. 3.7 about an hour ago. This one, 26 kilometers deep. That is just off the North Island area. Potentially associated with the Hikurangi subduction zone. Oh, what's going on here? Where's my... there we go. Potentially associated with the Hikurangi. But there's quite a few other fault systems that sit up here. Hawke's Bay area, quite a few folks reporting some light, maybe even some moderate shaking out there from this 3.7. Relatively shallow. That earthquake coming in about 26 kilometers deep or so to that area. And I'm sure the earthquake drums will show us what's going on there. That's going to be the signature right there around this area right here in the last couple hours. Not a big earthquake, but definitely shaking things up out there, it looks like. So, as always, we'll continue to watch the New Zealand area. There's a 4.4 coming in. Oh, man, they updated that. Deeper. 514 kilometers deep. Goodness. Into the Banda Sea area. Well underneath this area. That is super deep. But I'll tell you what, this area does see a lot of deep activity. These darker circles out here in the subduction zone region here do show that deeper activity historically. So watch the areas upstream here along this plate boundary. We've been noticing a lot of clustering going on here across the area recently. So keep an eye across regions of the Indonesia Islands area, Java Trench region, potentially for some larger movement. We have not seen too much activity here, roughly about the Papua New Guinea area eastward along this plate boundary through Solomon Islands. It's been absent of earthquake activity here, and that can't be a good thing. Last 7 days or so will show us the lack of activity here. Look at this. About the, well, there's one earthquake here that kicked up earlier this morning near Port Vila, but if you look at these areas northward here, Santa Cruz Island, Solomon Islands, that is super duper quiet, and that is unusual, that's for sure. So keep an eye on this region. I know we're seeing some deeper activity here, but still keep an eye on these this little plate boundary right here. Goodness. All right, what else we got here across the region here? Let's see what else. Mediterranean region looks like it's calmed down slightly. We did have some activity stirring up out here. 4.2, that earthquake coming in earlier this morning. Well, these guys are showing a 3.5 on the USGS map, but we had some further activity up here. A little bit of movement in Turkey and also western Afghanistan. Let's see what else we got. Southern Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. Getting some further movement here along the Indonesia Islands area, Java Trench region, following that deep movement there. Deeper activity adding strain across this region, so keep an eye on it, folks. Looks like it wants to move a little bit here. The Japan area, pretty quiet, 3.5. All right, let's see what else we have out here. Let's check space weather real quick, and then we're going to look into weather. Got some cold weather coming up here for the States. Not a whole lot going on in terms of the Aurora forecast right now. Things are very quiet. I don't think Kevin's going to be busy out here for a little while unless we get something major stirring up out here. We do have a coronal hole, number 86, just about into position here where it could be facing the Earth. Earth-directed view. This may spew out a little bit of high-speed solar wind and charged particles. That in itself could amplify the solar storm conditions here, probably after the first time period, sometime in the first week of January 2024. But for right now, things are below the C flare category. Look at this. We're down into the B flare. That means pretty much nothing going on. That's a little scary. 95% chance for a C flare, M flare at 15% chance. Goodness. Everything else is probably much lower than 1% chance. A look at the magnetogram image here of the sunspot regions. Well, there you have it, folks. Not a whole lot there. If you really look at this, there might be a few colors out here, but if you know what you're looking at in terms of complexity, there's not a whole lot of intermingling between these sunspot cores, which would indicate complexity, and therefore we would see some solar flaring take place. But everything looks pretty calm out there for now. Pretty quiet. All right, look at this. Around January 12th time period, we got a massive amount of Arctic air coming in to the lower 48. We're talking about temperatures, at least 20, maybe more below average out here for portions of, almost the entire 48 out here. Goodness. Let me backtrack that a little bit and show you guys what's going on. We've had this high pressure system out here. Canada region, that's going to get moved aside, but it looks like the jet stream is basically going to come down out of the north here because of high pressure building out here well off the coast of California. That jet stream is going to go over the ridge, so to speak, and then bring down some colder air from the north. California is going to get in on some colder temperatures as well. We got a few colder storms coming up, going to bring some snow. But we're looking at a lot of colder air venturing into the Pacific Northwest and down through, as you see here, this pink, purple color areas indicating well below average temperatures into a good portion of the western states out here. Now, whether this plays out or not, well, it's not that far away. It's about 2 weeks away. This could change. The potential for snow accumulation out there is somewhat elevated as well. Let's see here. Are we still live? We're not. 0 KBs. That can't be a good thing. Hold on. Stand by for a second here. I'll continue to update. I got 0 KBs coming in. 0 KBs. Give me a second. Give me a second here, folks. I'm just checking checking everything out. There's zip 0 coming in. It's always when I'm doing my update. Not for sure if this update's going to be valid or not because there's really nothing coming in. Shows no internet access, so that's a little odd. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. Hopefully that will be it. I'm going to check this update and see how we're looking.